What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. And if you caught my last video, you would have seen that I just recently purchased a 2013 Ford Raptor to go along with my 2019 Ford Raptor. Now, one of the modifications that I did to the 2019 is the Tesla style screen, and I absolutely love having this screen. It just updates the interior and just kind of modernizes your vehicle. And the main thing that I really like with these systems is you get to retain your sync system. If you have sync 1 in one of the older F150s, you don't get to retain that. But if you have sync 2 or sync 3, you get to keep that and utilize it within this system. And then you also get to use all the Android side of things. And since this is an Android-based device, you get the App Store, which means you get to download apps like YouTube, Netflix, anything. You can even play games on this. You can add a controller via USB and literally sit here and play games. So I absolutely love this display, especially on road trips or anything like that. You just get the full screen with the full navigation. It's just a cool way to update the tech on your vehicle. Now, there's a couple different screens that you can get for each year of truck of mine. You can get some that come in like a 12-inch, and then there's some that are a 14. I opted for the 14, and there's even a few other ones that are 14 inches. I believe that the two screens that I have in the 2019 and this one right here are really the best two top screens that you can get for the 2009 to 2014 F150 and the 2015 to 2020. So I have everything just kind of sprawled out that we're going to be using today. The new screen, as you can see, here are your new climate control buttons. So pretty much everything on my Sync 2 display where the buttons are in this area, we're going to eliminate all of those, and we're just going to reduce down to these. And this is going to be an easier swap than my 2019, because the 2019 you keep your factory climate control buttons, so you had to swap over two motherboards and the buttons. It adds a little time to it, but it really wasn't that difficult. We're going to break down this stuff just so you can get a feel for what's about to be installed. The main tools that you're going to need: 7mm, a Phillips, a couple of these little plastic pry tools. These can be had off of Amazon. I'll probably end up just using this flat one for the most part. This one's kind of cheap. It even broke. So the main one we're going to end up using today is this guy, and you'll just want a little flathead screwdriver. Let's give you guys a rundown of all these harness plugs, and they're all just adapters, so you don't have to do any splicing or nothing like that, which makes this install very simple, and just about anyone can do this. This little harness here, this is the adapter for your climate controls, so it's going to end up plugging in down here and adapt to your factory harness to make those work. This is going to be the USB port harness. It's going to end up plugging in one of these. And what I like about this system is these plugs, you really can't mix and match them. This is the audio video cable. If you're just going to run all factory stuff, you don't have to do anything with it, but just make sure this is plugged in. Even if nothing's getting hooked up to it, you still have to have this plugged in. And if you guys are looking to add an aftermarket front or rear camera to your vehicle, this is what you're going to utilize, and I'll put down in the description which wires you're going to want to utilize to make sure it works correctly. Say for instance this black one right here, this is for the aftermarket microphone, which is this guy right here. You would plug into it. I'm not going to run this is optional, because there's a microphone right here down in the lower corner that you can utilize. I'm going to end up utilizing my OEM mic by using Sync 2, and I'll show you guys how to do that. So this guy, it's out. Same with this is like an external speaker. We're not going to run that either, so that's another piece. The purple harness plug, that actually goes to this speaker. So there's three items right there that we're not going to be using on this install. The cable with the blue plug, it literally says GPS. That's the GPS antenna. You're going to want to make sure you install that. It's just going to go on with double-sided tape, which it's already on. This is going to be the adapter harness. This is going to take your factory harness and be able to adapt to plug into this, all plug and play. These brackets are only going to pertain to you if you have the Sync 2 system. So there's like a CD player in the Sync 2 system. You're going to end up swapping the brackets off of it and utilizing this in order to make sure everything goes together. This is just a little CAN bus that ends up plugging right in, and we could actually plug this in now. And this is just like a communication device, so you have to have this plugged in. Don't leave it out. Right here, this is going to be for a SIM card, and that's to give you data to this unit. There's a lot of people that do like to run external data outside of their mobile hotspot. I, however, in my Gen 2 Raptor, I have everything ran, but I'm not running a SIM card. I'm actually running a T-Mobile device, which is this guy right here, and it is a T-Mobile hotspot. If you do automatic payments, it's only $10 a month for 30 gigs of data. And if you have the extra $10 to spend on getting data to your screen, it is well worth it. If you go the SIM card option, then you're gonna want to make sure that these are installed, and these are your 4G LTE antennas. They just have 2 spots on the back of the screen they plug into with these little screws, and it's just double-sided tape. These are where the SIM card's going to utilize these. Even though I don't run the SIM card, maybe I do in the future and I just don't know it, so I do end up running these just so they're ran in the truck. And there's one thing that you got to make sure you have if you want this install to be 100% successful, and that is a Wrigley. If you don't have a Wrigley, I don't think your install is going to work out. And if you just have a regular F150, you obviously won't have to do this step, but I just have the auxiliary switches in the Raptor, which just unplugs real quick. And 3. So now that switch is undone. So if you guys just have the regular dash down here, you won't even have to mess with this. So now we're going to take our little plastic thing here, and this part that says sync, it's just got like a clip here and a clip here that just kind of pops in. Behind it is 2 7mm screws. There should be a little gap that you can get into right here and pop it pretty easily. Comes out just like so. 2 of these little clips right here, and she comes out very easily. So now on the left and right side, there's like a little 7mm screw. I can't really use the drill because these are angled, so I'm just using my socket. We're going to do this side first, then this side. So to break this free, you're going to want to just come under here, and you're going to kind of want to pop this. So now it's free. There's a couple screws under here if you do want to take this whole bezel out, but you should be fine just taking it and keeping this side loose. And now we got to pop this. And basically the same clips that were on the little sync tray, that's what's behind here. That's what we're trying to pop. So after you get this part pulled away, now the next step is you're going to want to try to get this first silver pillar apart. I opted to not use that plastic piece. Here I'm just going to put my fingers into the AC vent and just kind of give it a pull, and it breaks it free a lot easier than trying to get that plastic spudger behind there. It's almost impossible. So pulling on your AC thing seems to be the best way that I have figured out to pop that silver piece. With that broke free, you just get easy access to that 7mm up top here. So now I'm going to do the same thing over here. You could try to use this plastic spudger, but it just doesn't really do much. Like, I just don't feel like I'm making any progress with it. So again, I'm going to get 2 fingers back on here. I'm going to try to use both and just pop this. You can see I've already kind of got it going, so now I might finish off with this. You're going to try to get your 7mm in between the plastic pieces without removing the airbag. You're going to want to stick a couple pieces of electrical tape, just so that way when you put your socket and extension in through there, you don't scratch up any of your plastic pieces. You can see here that I have my plastic spudger kind of wedged at the top, and I was trying to gain access to that 7mm without taking the airbag off, but unfortunately I could not get onto that bolt. I think maybe if you have a little swivel on the end of your socket, you might be able to get it. So I actually just went ahead and undid my battery. We had like an audio glitch, so I'm going to show you guys what I did real quick. All I ended up doing to remove the airbag, make sure your negative on your battery's undone. You should have already done that anyway. But you'll just push these little 2 pieces in. This allows you to drop your glove box compartment the whole way. And right underneath here, there's 3 bolts that go on that silver bracket. So it's just 3 8mm on that silver bracket. And then what you'll do to pop this is you'll work your way from the bottom first. Just take the plastic spudger in this corner and just kind of pop it. And then once you get it going, you'll kind of get more of a gap going, and then you can use your fingers to pop it. And then once this bottom part's done, you'll just kind of take it from right up here and pull back towards you. It comes undone real easy. So I still have it plugged into the harnesses, and then there's just the 2 7mm that you'll remove, and then this comes free, and then you can access that 7mm behind it. With the bolts here, all undone, that means we can take this plastic bezel piece off. So we're going to start from the bottom, just kind of find a part to grab, and we're going to 2-hand it. And you got to use a little force to get it to pop. It's still clicked in. So there's just 1 plug down here controlling all these, and then there's 1 plug for traction control back here. So now we have this disconnected. The last step that we need to do is remove these 8 screws, which are all 7mm, to get this display out, and then we're going to transfer over the Sync 2 module over to the new screen. Let's go ahead and pull this screen out. And there's just 2 plugs. This is your main harness. This plug right here, it's got like a little push button. Pops out. But below this gray piece, you just push down, and then the gray piece kind of like, it frees up the gray piece to go backwards. Pull out, and as it pushes out, it almost like pulls itself out. So now we're going to take this screen, we're going to take the module off, and we won't be using this screen anymore. We're going to be utilizing the CD player. You're obviously not going to be able to play CDs, but we're going to have to switch the brackets. This has to stay in order for the system to work. With the old bezel out, I'm going to go ahead and get the traction control button removed. We don't need to keep anything else. This is all going to stay complete. So I'm going to use just a little precision screwdriver. It just needs to be pushed in on the sides here. So what I would do is just work one side, kind of get it started. So it's pushed down in, and then get this other one. And now that it's kind of free, just push it right out. This plastic piece, like I said, is going to go on top and hold the new button. So it's going to end up going this way. So we want to make sure the orientation of the button is correct. So it'll go just like this. It's best if you can work on a towel. So on your original screen, let's go ahead and get this module removed. So it's just a Phillips. You're going to undo 4 of them. And just kind of shimmy it back and forth like that. Comes undone. You can just kind of flip that, get those screws out. Because you're only going to use 3 now. Bring our new one over. And there is a metal cover blocking that. It's just to protect it in the event that something happens to it. Now to adapt this to the new one, this is directional. On this side is a little different than this side. Just make sure you plug it in the right way, but if you just remember this orientation the way I'm doing it, that these connectors need to be towards the top. And just kind of gently get it on there, just like so. And now you're only going to be using 3 screws instead of the 4 that it had. This one won't be used now. Whenever you're screwing these in, go counterclockwise till you hear it click. And then you know that it's lined up in the threads and nothing's going to get stripped. So again, counterclockwise till you hear that click. And then you know you're lined up. This top piece here, it's not screwed in. It's just got a couple holes where it kind of just pops in. I'm going to go ahead and plug in this harness. This is the adapter harness for the climate controls. That just goes right there. I'm going to take our main power harness and get our CAN bus plugged in, which is this. Just kind of make sure your connectors look all good. The CAN bus is going to go to the longer white one. Just make sure it snaps in good. And then off of this main harness, you have a couple of plugs. This white and yellow, this is audio plugs. So if you're having audio issues, one of the main things that I tell people is to make sure these are plugged in correctly. You can't misplug these in. So this white one here goes up in the very upper right corner. So make sure you get that thing clicked in. Pull on it, make sure it's in. Same with this one, get it clicked in, pull on it. And then this one that's kind of curved is the same kind of connector that we unplugged. What you'll do is right now it's actually in the seated position, so push this down, pull it back. So now once it's pushed all the way out, as you push it in, it's going to start closing on its own. So you want to push it in as much as you can by hand, and then click it. Again, a lot of people that have issues, one of the things I tell them is they might end up having to reseat some connections, but as long as you plug everything in, you should be good. This goes in the bottom left, and usually it's easier to work from the bottom 3 and then the top 3. This yellow one, you'll be all right. Now we have the adapter harness all plugged in. We're gonna plug this into our main harness off of the factory harness in the truck. We're not gonna plug in any more of these. We're gonna get these ran first, then we'll plug them in. Before I start installing all those harnesses and the screen itself, I'm going to take these brackets. You're not going to use these if you have sync 1, but since I have sync 2, we're going to swap these brackets out. You just need a Phillips screwdriver to achieve this. In order for the new screen to fit correctly, you can't use the brackets that are on this CD player. So you got to take them off and replace them with these. Now, we already undid the screws that hold this in, but there is a Phillips straight back here that we need to undo. So then you should be able to just kind of pull this out. And there are 4 screws, 2 on each side. You'll be able to pull it out just enough to get these undone. So now just make sure these are orientated correctly. So that side's done. And you'll see it's going to fit right in its spot like it should. We have the brackets on. Before we put the screws on, we got to run the USB cables in over through the glove box. So we're going to leave this loose for the time being because we can still tighten this down. First, I'm going to do our SIM card. Said and done, this blue plug is going to end up plugging in on the unit, kind of up towards the top, so you're obviously going to want that plug in this vicinity. So with your airbox dropped, There's no right or wrong way. You just basically need to reach up in here and just kind of find an access hole to where you can shimmy this cord through here, which I think I've already kind of found a spot maybe. Just like so. Very simple. Same thing with our USBs. I'll be honest, on my Gen 2, I don't really use the USBs that it came with. For one, they charge slow, so I just use a regular car charger. Same thing, you could probably almost try to trace where you did this one and just try to put it in the same spot and just try to make sure that there's no kinks or it's not hanging up anywhere. So realistically, once you shut this just like that, and they're just over there. Simple enough. The USBs are ran, the SIM cards ran. That's all we got to do for those. For the GPS antenna, some people put it up in the corner. It's a double-sided adhesive taped. But what I'm going to do, I opted on my 2019 Raptor to not put it up anywhere. I have it underneath the top of my dash on my Gen 2. And basically just find a spot back in here and just adhesive it on, and you'll be fine. So go ahead and peel this. Save one of those guys because there's so much of this to where it's a short reach that you're doing just to kind of bundle it up and keep it all together when it's inside here. I'm going to just try to attach it to this metal bracket, this metal back here, and it should be out of the way. So I already know that this is way more than enough. Probably about like that, just to give yourself a little slack so that way when the screen's in, you can kind of pull it back and have a little wiggle room. Now I'll just bundle this back up and we'll just kind of tuck this back here down low. GPS is ran, and now we only have two more things to run, and that's our LTE antennas. Basically the goal with these is you want to get one on the left side, one on the right side. That way it's just covering a wider spectrum. I don't think it's the biggest deal. For one, I don't even plan to use these. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to run mine through the glove box up through, and I'll probably just find somewhere plastic to make sure it's double-sided tape too. So I'll just reach up in here, find that access hole that I went for these guys already. Just peel this double-sided backing off. I'm just going to attach it directly to this plastic back here, and that tape is such a strong hold that it's not going nowhere. That's now ran, that's out of the way. Now we just need to run this over on the driver's side. For this antenna, we're going to get it over here, and basically I did the same thing on my Gen 2. Is I just popped this. And realistically, there's probably somewhere over here that I can mount it. With it undone, now I'll just basically find a way from here to run this and get it over to the center. We've got all of our harnesses ran. They're basically just kind of hanging out. So now let's go ahead and get this guy bolted back in. So now that screw that you took out from the middle back here, we won't be reusing that since it's kind of in a different spot. And since we removed the factory screen and it had a couple bolts up here, we won't be utilizing those. So now the factory CD player just needs the 4 bolts. Now we can basically get the new screen in and start plugging in everything. I did, however, plug my battery back in because I wanted to put my truck all the way in first gear, so then that way I have a little room to work with. So the first thing I'm going to do is start from the very bottom. That's our climate control harness. It plugs into the bottom. And just so you can see, this is the climate control one that I plugged in first, which is on the very bottom. That's the only item that gets plugged in on the bottom of the unit, so that's out of the way. So now the rest of our plugs are just going to be up top here. This one's going to be your GPS. This is for the 4G antennas, and then this is where your other plugs are going to plug into. We're going to go ahead. The blue matches up to the blue up top, which is GPS. And again, guys, make sure everything just clicks in and just kind of pull on it a little bit to make sure that it's for sure seated. We're going to take, this is our factory harness, and this is the harness adapter. Go ahead, get this. Try to push it in as much as you can by hand. It should click. And get it so this gray piece on its own almost goes the whole way, and then click it shut. So that way you know it's good. Get our 4G antennas, and I'll show you this when I'm done. Just to recap, after you get your climate controls that are on the very bottom, everything else, like I said, is on the top. So we've got all of our factory harnesses plugged in, our adapter harnesses. That's the new GPS you ran. I believe this is your old factory GPS that plugs into the back of your Sync 2 module. These are your 4G LTE antennas, your left and your right side. These 6 plugs, start with the bottom first, and you can't really mix them in the wrong spots. Just take note, the brown one is on the very bottom in the middle. And then the black one coming off of your new adapter harness is the very far left. You can't really mix that up because there's only one plug that fits it. And then this little white one over here, that one is audio as well as this yellow. So just make sure everything clicks in and make sure you just kind of tug on it and make sure it's good. We're going to get this closer and plug in this last one, which goes to that button. Now, before we get everything back in, bolted in, tight, we're going to get this thing on and we're going to make sure everything works, every function, because we're not going to put this together to only take it apart to troubleshoot it. Once it's closer, we'll now plug in this last plug up top. Clicked in. And when you're trying to put everything back together and it seems a little tough, just kind of pull it out and see what's holding you up. It's probably just one of the harnesses. Just try to make sure all the harnesses are kind of out of harm's way. She's pretty much in the spot that she needs to be. So we'll go ahead and turn it on. So right off the get-go, after it booted up, it's trying to do the wireless CarPlay. And you're going to think that, hey, it's searching for my phone, or I'm trying to search for it on my phone. You're not going to, because this is what pops up when you're already connected. We haven't connected to it, so it's just going to sit here and try to connect to something. I don't know what. So we'll hit the home button, pretty similar to the exact same like software that's on my 2019 Raptor. Hit your app drawer. The first thing I'm going to check is make sure that my Sync 2 app is working, which is InTouch. You can see right here, I'm hitting buttons, but it's not working. It's like the touchscreen needs calibrated. I'm going to show you guys what you need to do to fix this. And I'm going to just do one finger for 15 seconds. The screen will turn black and then it should go on again. And that should have fixed us. So now I hit the home button, settings. Now it operates completely fine. That's the first thing you're going to want to set up with Sync 2. So now everything works as it should. There's nothing wrong with the screen. So we'll go ahead. Volume button works, steering buttons work, so we're going to hit the home button. I know I'm legit. The next thing I'm going to set up, I generally use the Android side of apps for the most part, so I'm usually using the Play Store apps, and I'm using my mobile hotspot that I have from T-Mobile. But if I'm just going to use wireless CarPlay, then we need to come to Bluetooth music. We just need to come down to this little chain link, and we're going to do connect. When you hit the connect button, you should be able to find this device, GT6BT0135. You're going to click it on your cell phone. It's going to come up with the pair request. I'm going to hit pair, and now it's going to populate. Now this phone's connected. So now if we come back, go to Car Auto, it should connect. And now you can see that I have Car Auto hooked up, maps. So now I'm set up. And we already know the console's working. A lot of people have issues with sound coming from like YouTube, Netflix. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to open up YouTube, and I want to make sure this is playing, because once this works, I'm going to basically start putting everything back together. Okay, so we're logged in. Everything's working. If I was going to choose a video that's probably pretty cool, probably this silver Gen 1 Raptor that just got posted. And we've got volume. So now I know my volume's working with external stuff outside of console. So everything like that's working. The only other things that I'm probably going to check just right off the get-go, I'm going to go to System. If you go to Factory Settings, go 7890, hit OK. And it's already set to VGA, which this is what you want for your backup camera. So now let's check my backup camera. We'll hit the home button, see if it works. And the camera's working. And the other thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure we still have got internet. We're going to come down here. We're going to go to the Play Store. And we're going to download a gallery app. Usually I do just the gallery app from Google, which is this guy right here. Install. And then I'll generally do a couple of the maps apps as well. So now I've installed that. It puts it up here. What I do is I click and hold and just delete it. I just hit remove. I don't uninstall it. And basically what I'm doing is I'm going to put on my custom wallpaper packs that I have for these screens that you can purchase. They'll be down in the description. And how I usually get my wallpapers on is I just email them to myself, open up Google Chrome, open my email, and then you can just click and hold the picture and hit download. So now that it's downloaded, just go to gallery. And just hit allow gallery access, and there's one of the wallpapers. So we'll hit this up here, use as, gallery wallpaper. And then here, you can kind of adjust it. I usually just put it about the middle, and then hit set. Now hit the home button. And there we go. So when I did that save and reboot, for some reason, these like to do this. it re-adds these. This is basically what I do. So now I just have one page, the things I'm going to take down, Spotify. And then if you swipe down, I do dark theme. I always roll with the dark theme. I just think it looks a lot cleaner. And the other thing that I was going to show you guys is phone calls, because that mic is right here. So say you're in Car Auto, or say you're on the Android side of things, you're going to utilize the mic down here. And a lot of people don't like the quality that you get from that. So whenever you're in a phone call, and say I'm running Spotify, and I get a phone call, you can either answer it and answer it through here when it comes up top, or you can just hit the home button, hit In Touch, and the call will automatically switch over to sync. And when you're using the sync side of things, you utilize the OEM microphone, and that is just the preferred method that everybody loves to do. So for the most part, the reason why I like having sync is because I'm going to end up running Sirius XM through here. I can run it through an app, but I just like Sirius XM through here because that way it's actual satellites. And then pretty much everything else, I'm going to be on the Android side of things. Then your buttons down low are going to be for climate controls, but like say you want to use your heated and AC seats, just hit this guy. That's going to turn on heated seats. That's going to turn on cooled seats. That's going to turn on, all of your climate control stuff. So you can basically utilize all of this. Like even this little steering wheel heated icon, this doesn't have it, but on my Gen 2 Raptor, this works to turn on my heated steering wheel. So now you'll just pretty much run everything through the on-screen or down below here. I'll do some more in-depth setups on this in the future. I've got a few other videos if you look, and I'll link them down below. Setup, stuff like that. And I've been dialing in the Nova Launcher. A lot of people ask me if the Nova Launcher will hide this. For some reason on Android 13 it doesn't. I've still been utilizing the Nova Launcher on my other system, and I really like it, but there's still some things that I'm trying to work out with it. And just for future reference, guys, sometimes you got to reboot this screen. It just comes with the nature of the beast, being that this is an Android device. It's like a tablet. Down in this lower right-hand corner, there's a little spot where you can basically take either like a paper clip, or I use the thing that you use to eject a SIM card to reset it. If the screen's blacked out, you're going to want to do it this way. But otherwise, if you swipe down, you can hit reboot system and do it from there as well. But I would say on my second gen Raptor, I reboot my screen maybe once a month, if that. Once you get it dialed in, I feel like I don't reboot it as much as I once did. We'll get this button back up, finish bolting her in since everything is functioning like it should. And since you guys have already taken it apart, you kind of know what to do to put it back together. Once this is actually bolted in, we'll click this in, hit the 2 bolts on this piece, airbag in, 3 bolts, flip the glove box, 2 bolts down here, put the sync cover over, and then for me, my little SVT auxiliary switches. Alright guys, so that's all we got today. Just wanted to throw down a little install video for the 09 to 14 F150. Not too bad of an install. If I wasn't making a video on it, I probably could do it in probably an hour. And also the other thing you can do with the screen, you can't do this on my other one because it doesn't have the colored buttons. But if you come down here, and if you go to ambient light set, right now I kind of did a custom color, so it's like a lighter blue, so I have a mix of green and blue. But you can just click on any of these, do color changing, and you're able to change those, which is pretty dialed. I hope this install video helped, or maybe even some of these settings at the end of the video will help you guys out, because I know sometimes it's hard to get the full information when it comes to these screens. Any questions, like always, drop them down below, and make sure to drop this video a like, because these install videos are kind of difficult. Wrigley, you got anything? We're gonna grab some dinner. Peace.